Good morning to our viewers here in Nigeria and across the world. Thank you for joining us on another Monday morning's edition of Breakfast Central. I am Osaugi Ogbawa, and a quick reminder that you should please join the conversation at any time during the show simply by tweeting at News Central TV or reaching us on all social media platforms at the same handle.
And I am Olive Emodi, welcoming you to a brand new week here on Breakfast Central. We hope that you'll be with us for the next 2 hours as we have some of the biggest conversations that have happened across the country over the weekend, picking up off from where Breakfast Extra has stopped. We hope that you also enjoyed the shows that we brought to you over the course of the weekend and the stories that have been discussed, chief of which was the Rivers State local government elections. It was, a number of issues have arisen. We've seen local government chairmen being sworn in, and the governor has said that, that there are allegations or there are plans for the current local government chairmen to be attacked at as they resume their office today, and he's urged them to be like him, to be calculative and to be patient, and that when they attempt to bring violence their way, that, they shouldn't respond in violence, they shouldn't respond with violence. It feels like, the plot just thickens in Rivers State with the drama that's going on. Nyesom Wike's camp, Similar Life Ibarra's camp, and one wonders what this move with the APP being the leading party now, out of the blues, APP just becoming the chief party in Rivers State. One wonders what this might mean for the trajectory of his career as a politician in Rivers State. And if this in any way solidifies his foothold in the state for this first term, if this guarantees his maybe influence for a return in second term, and if now that this is done, we can now get to governance.
Yeah. So with regards to that, I hope that I can say everything in as quickly as possible. With regards solidifying his political structure that he also, himself is trying to build in Rivers State, this is not the first time, we've had Rivers governors feuding, among themselves, from the Peter Odili era, all the way down to where we are now. There's pretty much been always the same situation where the outgoing governor has issues with the sworn-in governor. It's always happened, and so this is not the first time, and I expect that it will play out the same way the other ones have played out, which is at some point, one side will let go, and Sim Fubara will eventually have his way as governor for the next 4 years. But, there's also different aspects of the whole drama that has ensued, especially because of the elections that took place on the 5th of October over the weekend. There's parts where, I've seen people call on, question, the PDP as a party, and what it has been able to do while two of its, members have continued to, battle each other out in Rivers State. What stance should the PDP as a party have taken concerning this? I saw that over the weekend. Former President Goodluck Jonathan put out a statement, encouraging peace, and dousing the tension in Rivers State, and also calling on the courts, to also not get themselves so involved in the politics of what's going on. I also saw Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president, also put out a statement over the weekend. But that's seemingly the most that we've seen from the PDP as a party. So that's one angle. Again, the third thing to quickly mention is also, and this is something that I spoke about over the weekend also, which is as much as people, pick sides with this whole conversation, and as much as everyone wants to see either one side or the other win, we can't ignore something that I think is pretty glaring here, which is something that I think is a flaw with Nigerian politics, and it's not peculiar to Rivers State. It happens all across, the country, which is you always get to see a 90% on the average win of elections in the State House of Assembly going to one party, or the local governments all going to one party. Also in Imo State, in I think it was Kwara State or so, in the last couple of weeks. It's pretty much the same thing that happens where in local government elections, you have one party cleaning out the whole, all the votes. And I don't necessarily think that is normal. And for me, it points to an electoral process that is still not free, fair, and credible. And for me, there's no evidence of anything of yet, but it just doesn't feel right. And I was saying over the weekend that as much as, people would pick sides, we should be honest enough to say that there's a flaw here with our electoral process and leadership recruitment process. And it's not like in Rivers State. Now you're talking about the APP. 2 months ago, nobody heard about the APP in Rivers State. nobody heard about the APP generally in the whole country. It only became relevant about a month ago when
Obviously,
the
because it's a
PDP
political
politicians
structure.
moved there. Exactly.
Yes.
So it just doesn't sound like we've gotten it right with the local government structures yet. We're still building, but most importantly, with our leadership recruitment process with INEC, with the state independent electoral commissions, and of course the elections that they also handle, there's still obvious flaws on that level. And the same control that we say that the presidency, the executive has over INEC that we've complained about, we can still see that thing. Exactly, we can still almost see that same thing on the state level.
And another area also is to talk about the role that the court plays in all of this. I mean, we would have easily been able to get out of this sticky situation in Rivers State if we did not have multiple court judgments, if we didn't have, two contrary court judgments from two courts of coordinate jurisdiction. So I think we can't underestimate the role that the judiciary plays in all of this. And these are very valid points that you've raised, and I'm hoping that the people in Rivers State can ask themselves these questions. And it's not just Rivers State, really, because what we see is a script that plays out in different...
Pretty much the same way,
exactly, the same way, but just different tweaks here and there in different states in the country. In all our elections, we still haven't gotten to the point where we can say that this election was free, fair, and credible. And like you mentioned, if APP is clearing out, are they clearing out because people of Rivers State
suddenly fell in love with APP?
And because they think that APP is the party that will bring about the restoration that they need, to the state. So these are very valid points to raise. But we'll talk about Rivers State some more later on in the show. But let's share with you what our top stories are, and then we'll bring you breakfast headlines. Governor Fubara swears in 23 new Rivers local government chairmen after the elections that have just been concluded. And still speaking about the elections in Rivers State, APP sweeps local government poll, wins 22 out of 23 chairmanship seats. Police barricade Rivers Council as new chairmen are sworn in. Reports were that they were anticipating some measure of violence. NNPCL set to implement new pricing regime for Dangote's fuel. And we review the newspaper front pages as we always do. Join us every morning on Breakfast Central. But now, let's bring you breakfast headlines.
Now let's begin the news in West Africa, Nigeria, where the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission has issued certificates of return to newly elected local government chairmen. After an exercise held amid heightened tension on Saturday, the Action People's Party won 22 out of the 23 chairmanship positions, while the Action Alliance candidate won 1 seat. The chairman of the commission, Adolphus Enibili, issued the certificates to the chairman at the RISIEC headquarters in Port Harcourt, the state capital. And the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has asked President Bola Tinubu to withhold allocations to states that have failed to conduct credible local government elections. Local elections took place on October 5th in a number of states, including Jigawa, Benue, Rivers, and Akwa Ibom. Most states, however, are yet to perform local government polls and still get money from the federal allotment for their respective local councils. And now, away from Nigeria to North Africa, the Algerian President, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, has ruled out the idea of a visit to France. During a television interview, he said he considered the idea humiliating in the context of renewed tensions in relations between his country and France. The visit of the Algerian president, which has been constantly postponed since May 2023, was most recently planned between the end of September and the beginning of October 2024. And now, still in North Africa, Tunisian presidential candidate Zohair Maghzoui has voted in La Masa in the northern suburbs of Tunis. The candidate, a former left-wing pan-Arab MP, has a real electoral base, but remains associated with the president's 2021 power grab, which he supported. Tunisians voted on Sunday in a presidential election largely expected to see incumbent President Kais Saied secure another 5 years in office, while his main critics, including one contender, are behind bars. And now in Southern Africa, Mozambique presidential candidate Osufo Momade from the Renamo party held his final rally ahead of the 9th of October elections in Maputo. Joined by his supporters, Momade was seen dancing with a broom. The ruling party, Frelimo, which has increasingly become marked with growing concerns of authoritarianism and impunity amid the controversy surrounding the 2023 local elections and the 2019 general elections, is predicted to win. And now moving to South Africa, officials on Sunday confirmed the arrest of 3 people in connection with the killing of 18 relatives, mostly women, gunned down at a rural homestead a week ago. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu announced this at a memorial near the site of the killing. A 4th suspect is being sought for the massacre in the early hours of September 28th in the Eastern Cape province. Gunmen opened fire inside 2 homes in Lusikisiki, about 200 kilometers southwest of the coastal city of Durban, killing 17 people. An 18th person died later in hospital. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. Let's head back now to Breakfast Central to continue with our top stories. I am Osaogie Ogbon.
The Rivers State local government election has been won and lost, but reactions continue to trail the exercise. News Central's correspondent Austin Azu spoke to a cross-section of respondents in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, and he brings us more details.
Residents of Rivers State went to the poll on Saturday, October 5th, 2024, to elect the local government chairman and councillors across the 319 electoral wards and 23 AGAs of the state. Due to federal court judgment, the Nigeria Police Force withdrew their services from the conduct of the election. But how was the absence of the Nigeria Police Force during the election on Saturday?
Majority of the issues we've had when it comes to elections in Nigeria has always been from the police. So with or without them being there, as long as the people are able to provide alternative means of protecting themselves, I think it can go.
From the way everything went, I didn't see any need for police. In fact, some of us were even saying that if this is how our election should be, then in future, Nigerians may not need police security.
I think we say police people there for be another disturbance also. Without police, everything was so calm.
While major of the respondents described the exercise peaceful, some said the election was, however, marred by violence in areas where suspected political thugs and some men in police uniforms wreaked havoc.
I saw yesterday in my place, I don't know about what happened in Obiakpo and other local government. The election was free and fair, to the best of my knowledge. I voted, if you can see my hand, and so many persons voted.
People came out to vote, so the election was peaceful, very peaceful indeed. At least where I were that yesterday, there was no chaos. People came out willingly to vote.
It's quite cool, sure. Only we had some issues, some places, but moreover, everything, it's okay. It's okay, there's no problem like that.
There's no election on my side there. They are starting to shoot and kill people. So they kill 2 people. I don't know the other area. That's a greater. So that's why everybody left yesterday. In short, we run inside and lock the door. Who won't die? Nobody. That's the only thing.
Even with the immediate swearing in of the elected council chairmen and their deputies by the state governor, Similari Fubara, men of the Nigeria Police Force were still occupying the local government secretariat entrance of Port Harcourt City, EGA, and raising the question, would the newly elected and sworn-in council chairmen and councillors be allowed access to their offices? The next few days would definitely provide the answer to this question. In Port Harcourt for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
Still remaining in Rivers State, Governor Fubara said the Rivers State local government election would hold, and it did. Sadly, not without a fight, it seems. Yesterday, Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara swore in the newly elected council chairman at the Executive Council chambers in the Government House in Port Harcourt, Rivers State capital. Justice Adolphus Enebeli, chairman of the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, announced the winners of the October 5, 2024 local government elections. The Action People's Party secured a sweeping victory with 22 chairmanship candidates, while Uzodinma Nwafo of the Action Alliance emerged victorious in Iche, the 23rd local government area. Governor Fubara had this to say at the swearing-in.
To be peace-loving. I'm aware that they are mobilizing 20 people per unit to go and confront you tomorrow when you resume in your local government headquarters. But please, if they're coming with violence, avoid them. The peace of this state is too important to us. It is on public notice. Everybody knows what they're planning. But please, I want to beg every one of you, follow my approach. At the right time, you will always win if you're patient and calculative.
Well, Governor Bala Mohammed, the chairman of the People's Democratic Party PDP Governors Forum, was on ground on Sunday when his Rivers counterpart, Sim Fubara, swore in winners of the Saturday's local government election.
That is very, very creative, and I'm very, very proud of him. And I said, yes, we have lost as a party, and that is why we are running from this. Again, he has established himself as a governor and the pride of all the governors of Nigeria. At the subnational level, you cannot just ignore a governor. A governor is the chief executive. He can do anything. He can spring surprises because the Nigerian state is run by governors at the subnational level. Even the federal government is a tenant. Nigerians live in the states and in local governments. And that's why what he did to me is very, very proactive and creative, irrespective of the fact that he knew his party would lose. But certainly, because of his deep democratic instincts, he had to allow the other parties to win. And I would just wish that those who have won will find it in their own modesty to give.
The controversial local government elections held amid protest, pockets of violence, and an average turnout of voters. Well, joining us this morning is the Labour Party candidate for Rivers State 2023 gubernatorial election, Fafa Dan Princeville. Good morning, and thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you. All right, just, first of all, a quick assessment on the elections, over the weekend. Of course, it started with a lot of controversy. Some, sides saying that the election should not hold. The courts also, of course, getting involved with INEC and its voters register. The police also, deciding to respect a court order saying that they shouldn't provide security. But eventually, the elections went on, and held, and local government chairmen have been sworn in. What's your quick assessment of the process so far and the drama concerning the whole elections?
Well, first of all, I speak as a Rivers State indigent, not as a representative of any political party or holding any political office or role. Yes. I think all Rivers people, are relieved that at least one stage, the first stage of the controversy, has now settled. That the election was peaceful, that people went about their roles without any form of violence, and there are many lessons to take from it, and I hope from here on everyone behaves properly, and then we do things for the progress of the state and for the good of the people, rather than personal interests.
When you say that Rivers people are happy that the first stage of this whole drama has calmed down, Reports have it that Nyesom Wike's camp is going to court as local government chairmen have been sworn in by Governor Siminalayi Fubara. So it would seem that there are people who still are not pleased with the drama or pleased with the results of the elections as well as the swearing in. And what do you make of those?
No, that is actually proper. That is the way things should go. If you are not satisfied, you go to court. And usually that is what we always hear from them, go to court. So it's a good thing they're going to court. There is nothing wrong with that.
Okay, I mean, going to court, as much as, yes, like you said, it's part of the process. But we're very much aware that it's not simply because of the inconsistencies that they feel, happened with the election. It seems to be motivated by support for the, support from the FCT minister. If you remember, a protest even happened just before the elections, and they were tagged as pro-Wike supporters, protesting against the election. So there still is that involvement of the FCT minister in the whole conversation. Do you see that ending anytime soon?
Well, the FCT minister is fairly well known, to be one that pursues his interests, no matter the circumstances, and which is his legitimate right. I think going to court is fine. You see, what the issue, what I believe Nigerians ought to look at, is that it's not really a Rivers State problem. It's not even about the FCT minister, really, because repeatedly we have had these problems in Rivers State. Actually, I would say that in this republic, we have had no peace in Rivers State, from 1999 till date. In fact, even now, we probably fare a bit better than in the past, because we had a lot of prominent people who lost their lives in our politics. The rancor in Rivers State, politics has been terrible. We have a situation in Rivers State where national politics has been swayed or considers itself hinged on Rivers State. All of these controversies are not about Rivers people. The peaceful election shows it. The real issue is national struggle for power that dovetails and has effect in Rivers State. So it's not a Rivers State problem. It's not about Rivers people. Rivers people are very peaceful and very civilized. We can conduct elections without police, without soldiers, and people would win and lose. That is the Rivers State that I know. There is nothing in Rivers State that is violent or rancorous. It is outside issues that make Rivers State a pivotal violent spot.
The struggle for control of the state, is that what you're referring to?
No,
the state resources?
The struggle for the state resources to be used for national politics. That's where the problem is.
So it's beyond the FCT minister?
Well, he's part of it, but he is beyond him, yes. That's a fair statement. I would say that every Rivers State election has national ramifications. It was very clear in the last election that if the APC had lost Rivers State, we would have had a different president. That's clear. So it is Rivers State politics being pivotal that is the issue. And then not just Rivers votes, but the resources of Rivers State are used to win other states. So Rivers State is a key political state, and that's the problem.
So before we go back now, let's or rather before we continue with current affairs, let's go back to the 2023 elections.
Yes.
Do you think the APC truly won Rivers State from your assessment?
Well, the elections show, the elections show it. I think Rivers State is a PDP state, and it has always been a PDP.
But so how did they suddenly vote
state.
APC in 2023?
They didn't, the honorable minister, determined whatever. He could have given it to any party that he wanted.
So he gave the election to the APC?
Definitely, and that's why he was compensated.
All right.
Because he's not a member of the APC and he was given such a major appointment clearly shows that it was for gratitude for services rendered. And that service rendered was the delivery of Rivers State to...
So in other words, we're saying that Nyesom Wike rigged the elections in Rivers State.
His main supporters, Tony, in fact, that's the argument they're making. That's what Tony Okocha's argument is, that they've been rigging the elections. And so it's very clear. The evidence is clear. I don't think that should be a surprise to anyone.
Okay, let's bring in the state chairman, Interparty Advisory Council, IPAC, Honorable Solsuema Osaro. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Morning.
All right, we'd like to get your sense, about the elections that happened on the 5th of October, as well as the swearing-in of the local government chairman that happened right after.
Well, firstly, I would want to sincerely appreciate the members of all political parties who came in, who contested in this election. It was not actually the usual times or the normal congenial environment that elections are conducted in Rivers State from our past experiences.
All right.
It is painful why the people are geared up towards having this election. Crisis, protests, masterminded by those who are loyal to the FCT minister, erupted in Rivers State a day before this election. The environment was very tense. The protest attempted to actually stop the election. We saw what happened in Rivers State. There is no sane person that will be happy to see that a state that is trying to ensure compliance with the ruling of the Supreme Court that has to allow election to be conducted into local governments will be stopped.
All right. It does seem that the network is posing a bit of a challenge. We're hoping, Honorable, we're struggling with your internet. We hope that can be sorted. But please go ahead. All right. We're hoping that we can reconnect with him. Let's come back to the conversation now. Before we had him joining, we were talking about the influence of Minister Nyesom Wike on the 2023 elections. Now, let's talk about the presidency. Is there anything that presidency could have done differently to ensure that peace can be guaranteed in Rivers State with the drama that's ongoing?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. I believe that the president was ill-advised. That's my humble opinion. I believe that a lot of people who do not know the state very well were piloting or advising him on Rivers State. Okay, it's an error. Rivers State is not the kind of state that one man can deliver. It just is not. It's not the way the people think. It's a very open society. People hold different views. They can come together. And usually we have one direction. Our state usually comes together and agrees to support one party at one time or the other. That's just the history of being a minority state. We think that unity gives us a stronger and better voice. So you always find a lot of rancor, but Rivers people generally would go one side at the end of the day. That's the politics. So in such a state, you cannot give it just to one man to decide. It's more complicated than that. Amechi was a very popular, all our governors are popular at one time or the other because the people supported them at one point, okay? Whether it's Odili, you may not agree, you may not like them, but at the end of the day, the state says this is what we're doing and we all support, and those who don't keep quiet. That basically is a culture. So when Nyesom Wike emerged, he emerged because the state was angry that our governor was not supporting the candidate we wanted at the national level. That basically was what it was. Goodluck Jonathan had emerged under circumstances that were not very pleasant. The president died, and that was the issue. Okay, so Amaechi went against the mainstream opinion in the state, so the state left him. Okay, in that milieu, his number one man, his main supporter, Wike, became a Goodluck supporter, basically. Okay? Goodluck appointed him minister and all of that. So the state left Amaechi and moved to Wike. It wasn't anything about Wike. It wasn't about his qualities. It wasn't about it. It was the circumstances of the politics at the time. But some people, especially outside the state, misunderstood it to think that, oh, he's a strong man, he has defeated Amaechi, oh, this and all that. But it was local politics. Now, Wike himself fell afoul of the mainstream view that now, after that. So he moved from being a beloved son of the state to more or less a pariah, pretty much. Yeah. Because he was now playing politics as if it was his own personal gifts to whoever he wanted. He started redefining the society, determining whether Opobo is a Ijaw or whether this one is whatever. Now he has even said, oh, he's going to give power to the Ogoni. That's not Rivers State. We don't work like that. Every Rivers person is entitled and legitimate to be a governor, but we come together at some point. That's the way it works, okay? So I believe that the presidency was misadvised or misunderstood the situation and thought they could go with Wike alone. That works, and it worked for a short period. And whatever the 2023 elections were in Rivers State, people know what happened, okay? But unfortunately, after that experience, one would have expected that the federal government that has emerged would now recalibrate and look at Rivers politics differently. It is not an unpopular government or unpopular person that's Tinubu in the state. He's not. But he's gone to the side that is not the mainstream of Rivers State. That is clear. And without the power of the governor, one is at a loss how Wike is going to deliver the state, because he's not in the mainstream and he's not the governor. So, well, in short, that's what I think. I feel I'm misadvised, and I believe that if they don't recalibrate quickly, they could push the state into instability that could in turn destabilize the country.
So what it seems now is that the FCT minister, as a PDP member, is working in favor of the APC for Rivers State.
Well, he's working in favor of himself. He's not. I mean, I'll be surprised if APC thinks he's working for him, because it will make the party unpopular in the states. If you are, so that's why I say they're ill-advised. I don't think that. But that's his own personal thing, and I don't think an individual, is a reason for all of this. No, I don't think. I think it would be faulty to put all the blame on him personally. I think there are miscalculations that have been done that are destabilizing the state and the country.
All right. Let's bring in Honorable Solswema Osaro, who is the state chairman, IPAC. Good morning. We're hoping that the network has been sorted now. Please go ahead. You're giving us your thoughts regarding the elections, local government elections in Rivers State, and the swearing in of the chairman.
Yes, like I was saying earlier on, Rivers people have taken their destinies in their hands, because Rivers State does not belong to one person. We saw what happened prior to the election. The state was thrown into a lot of unpredictable situation where you had protests by those who are loyal to the FCT minister rampaging all over the state. And that also translated the next day because there were fears all over, fears of being attacked, fears of those who claim to destroy the electoral processes in the state. But we are very grateful because Rivers people came out, contested in the election, and we have seen the outcome of the election. We still maintain that the circumstances we found ourselves in, the attempt to disrupt the exercise, are really, really uncalled for. But we're happy that today there is an executive body in the state, there are executive chairmen all over the LGA, there are councillors, and that means that Rivers people have taken their destiny in their hands. It has not been very easy, but we are particularly very interested in the fact that one man cannot decide the fate of Rivers people. One man cannot put Rivers people in his pocket. So we appreciate all that has happened. But the fact that we have elected officers in Rivers State today against all odds, this election was contested against the police. We saw the road policemen attempting to enter RISEC to stop this exercise. We saw the police withdrawing the support security from this exercise. It has never happened before. Rivers State has been thrown into a state with a lot of ill feelings, a lot of attempted orchestrated free-flowing attempt in Rivers State. It is really uncalled for. Why should the police, with due respect, get involved in politics? Despite the disguise of the Federal High Court, the Federal High Court, we know, is subject to the decisions of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, which has mandated every state to ensure that there are elected local governments across the entire country. And why should Rivers State be an exception? Why should the police dabble into the Rivers State electoral processes? Is it not the right of the police? If the police could provide security for protesters, why don't you provide security for the election? But on the other hand, we were very happy that the state government, the state governor stood up and stood out. The state governor stood out and took his state in his hands, because it is unheard for, it is uncalled for, it's unheard of. It is really a novelty of sensational and emotional response where people ought to stand by the masses and protect the values, electoral values of the masses. Abandon that exercise, abandon that duty, but they can provide security for protesters. Yeah, this is a big slap on the leadership of the police in this country.
All right, hold on, Honorable Saron.
Leadership should not encourage this to happen anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you're chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, so I also want to ask about your assessment of the elections, itself. There's people who say that, yes, it may have been reasonably peaceful, but there are still certain flaws that exist with the way that the elections were carried out, and it's not very normal to see one party that barely anyone knew about 2 months ago suddenly win 22 out of 23 local government areas in a state, just like that. So, from your assessment, do you think that the elections were truly free, fair, and credible to, of course, give these persons victory, all 22 of them?
Well, let me take you back to the trajectories of elections in Rivers State. If you have been following elections in Rivers State, firstly, you know that Rivers State has been one-party state.
It is.
It has been a one-party state. And in our previous elections, even under the last dispensation of the former governor, we saw what happened in Rivers State. In fact, there was no party that won a single seat, either councillorship or chairmanship in Rivers State. No party. So if today we have seen a party,
unfortunately, that's it.
All right. We're unfortunately having challenges with his audio. I'd like us to bring that conversation back to you, sir, to talk about the APP, their emergence and sudden popularity in River State elections, local government elections.
You see, first of all, in River State, just as I said earlier, the parties don't matter as much. You know, people get together and they go one way. And APP in River State was actually a very major party. It was a party from where the Rufus George, even Odili was moved from APP to PDP when it became clear that River State was heading towards PDP. He moved from APP to PDP. So it is not correct that there is no history at all with APP.
I mean, not there's no history, you know, but the APP was not, I mean, even in the 2023 elections, you know, you would not hear the APP mentioned in any of the major...
APC was not mentioned before in the state. There was no APC in River State, you know. Not a single representative. They didn't have anything in River State.
And then they won the election.
And they won and then they won the election, and then all the other positions were to PDP. Only the presidency that they won and won, you know. So it's... I think the problem is much deeper than the country is willing to discuss. You know, the River State problem is much deeper. And the issues, you know, our electoral acts, our constitution, all of them are on trial. The police, the entire infrastructure of elections, of politics, are on trial in River State. It's not a River State problem. It's not about Rivers people. You see, in many states, if the police withdrew, there would be violence and there would be chaos. But whichever way you look at it, the fact that there will be no police and more peaceful election than other elections that had the police, it's enough for us to sit down and discuss.
What do you think happens next? You know, moving forward, we of course expect that there will be litigation.
There will be litigations. There would be the attempt to reverse the election. And it's all not about the election.
Yeah.
It's about the governorship, and also not about even the governorship. It's about national politics. So a lot of things would happen, and that's why I think the president should be well advised. I think whichever way, he's an astute politician, and there's nothing I'm saying that I believe that he doesn't know. You know, he's a very experienced politician. He has around him a lot of very experienced people. So we don't need instability in our country, and certainly not in our state. I believe that the crisis has the potential to upturn even the entire republic. I think that all Nigeria's national, even the First Republic, Second, all the problems have started from innocuous locations. I recall the problems between Akintola and Awolowo. It was a localized issue before it consumed the country. There was also the issue of Ondo State, where the election was manipulated or manipulated in a way that the people did not accept. I mean, and it upturned the republic. So we have a history of it. I believe that the River State situation should be looked at with maturity and wisdom, you know.
Do you consider what has happened so far, especially with the concluded elections and the swearing of the local government chairman, as the governor, similarly Fubara's point in setting up his own structure, political structure in River State?
First of all, it's unfortunate that that's our politics, but that's the way it is. There is no reason why we cannot separate the performance of the duties to the citizenry from the political process. That is one of the weaknesses of our electoral act and our electoral process. We must separate the actual performance and delivery of goods to the people from the politics. We can't play politics with everything, you know, and that's what we are doing. We play politics with everything. It is also not true that it is members of APP that have now emerged. A lot of the people who have emerged are from various parties. They're from, you know, it's a game, okay? Many of them have never been in APP, but they've emerged, okay? So I don't think that is where the problem is. What it is that the state, and if the state didn't agree, there would have been uproar. There's no uproar anywhere. So I feel that we need to look at the Electoral Act again, the electoral process. We need to look at INEC, the police, the different roles. It is absurd to call a man the chief security officer of the state as a governor, and he has no control over the commissioner of police. See, there are fundamental issues that we continue to toy with that should be addressed. We need to return our country into an electoral thing that can work. What we have now is not working, and it needs to work.
Okay. You had mentioned earlier that the president was ill-advised, and you know they need to do different things differently, and they need to recalibrate. Yeah. If the status quo remains, what's the current situation and the current politics that is being run in Rivers State remains, what do you think that this would mean for the 2027 elections for Siminalayi Fubara and for Nyesom Wike?
My personal view is that a lot of these rules and regulations ought to change before the 2027 election. I think the president can run on his record in Rivers State. He doesn't need to run on the shenanigans of one individual. You know, you win or lose, and Rivers people are very fair-minded. They will look at what you've done, and we have seen many times people who are extremely popular become very unpopular. People who are unpopular become popular in Rivers State because they look at what the issues are. So I think if there's a change in the process, if there is proper reform, that is in the best interest of the president, it's the best interest of the nation, and I think in the best interest of all well-meaning Nigerians.
And what would that mean for Siminalayi Fubara? Because we can't deny the fact that part of what is happening, not just in Rivers State, but around the country, is setting the stage for 2027 elections. Do you think that he would have a stronger form in 2027?
If you are, similarly to me, was put in a corner, I don't think he's doing any of the things out of malice or, you know, of his own. He was cornered up. And don't forget, a lot of what is happening is what Rivers people want, even more than Siminalayi. He is playing to the underground feelings and movements of the people. That's really what is going on. It is not the other way around. He's not the one convincing Rivers people on this. This is the view of Rivers people. They are done with that last exercise.
The people that are busy singing Then They Fear Wike, I don't know part of Rivers.
Then they fear?
All those people sing Wike, Then They Fear You, all his supporters.
Hey, we give him money. They are, you know that Rivers people are not afraid of anybody. You know that. Not in Rivers State. Nobody's afraid of anybody. No.
Unfortunately, I mean, just like you said, there's a lot of fixing that needs to be done with our electoral process.
Precisely.
If Rivers people, like you said, always vote in one way, they're a one-party state.
Yes.
2023 seems to be a completely abnormal situation, that happened over there. It's that wasn't what was expected in Rivers State. The electoral process needs to be strengthened so that Rivers people and the voices of the Rivers people would always be heard. Elections would not be flipped, on them, just like that. And I think one of the things that you also mentioned, I think was important, is the ability to separate politics from governance.
It's very important.
That is a flaw not just on the electoral process, but also on us as a people, and the demands that we make of the people that we have in political office.
It's not the fault of the people. It's the regulations is keen to achieve that. That's what it's not. Nigerians are good people. I don't think our ethnicity and all that, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think so. Our laws make us behave a certain way. Even this ethnicity, religion, Nigerians get along with each other. I don't think that is the problem. If you look at our laws properly, you will see in them elements of division. There is no reason for it to be one man take everything. There's no reason. And there is no reason for you to need the support of every local government chairman for you to be governor. There's no reason why your re-election should be based on other people's actions and positions.
Okay. Just before we wrap up, I think you can also quickly speak on the Labour Party. As it currently stands.
Well, Labour Party has gone through its own crisis and is again part of the national rights. We had a lot of confusion, even in my state, a lot of confusion, a lot of unnecessary confusion. Nationally also, I was very happy to see that the governor of Abia State, Alex Oti, the presidential candidate, Peter Obi, were able to gather people to meet in Aba for the to review things.
Yeah.
And we hope that but every party is in crisis, whether it's APC, PDP, Labour, every party is in crisis. And it is unfortunate that every election we have a new electoral act. So it's just like the World Cup, and you have new football rules for every World Cup. You look at the teams, you look at who is a good player here, then you make the laws. That's how it seems. If you have a very good player, who is left-legged, you make a rule that that's basically what we've been doing. We need to have a proper, well-reformed electoral act. We need to do that. Even if we don't do the Constitution, we absolutely can't continue like this.
Yeah. I think everyone would agree. In order for Nigerians to be able to have an election that they can truly trust,
yeah.
The current Electoral Act is not what
it's not. It doesn't cut it.
Is it just the Electoral Act or also the Commission?
Well, you see, they are products of the Electoral Act. I would put it that way. I would say that. Are you going to use the machines? And if you don't use the machines, what? The rules should be clear. Yeah. You can't pick and choose. You can't pick and choose. In some constituencies, elections start at 2 o'clock. In some constituencies, elections start at 8 a.m. We can't run an election. Our electoral process is not serious. Even determining who is the candidate of a party is controversial. The rules are inadequate. They just don't work. They should be resolved long before election. Look at even this local government election. Only days to the election, we're still talking about will it take place, will it not, we are going to court. It's just ridiculous. They should be settled well ahead of time. All
right. I think it's been a very interesting conversation. We, of course, will continue to x-ray River State and how things turn out over there. In the next couple of days, we expect that there would be, of course, more twist to the tale in River State from, of course, Simfabara, those who, of course, might be going to court, and maybe other political players in the whole conversation. Fafa, Dan, Prince, thank you very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
And we apologize also to Soswe Maosaro for, of course, the poor connection there, and he not being able to join us and share his views with us. He, of course, represents the Inter-Party Advisory Council. Look forward to speaking with him again. But let's quickly share with you a quick recap of what we've discussed in the last hour and also tell you what's coming next.
Governor Fubara swears in 23 new Rivers local government chairmen after the elections have been concluded. And the APP sweeps Rivers local government poll, wins 22 out of 23 chairmanship seats. We also had Police Barricade Rivers Council as new chairman as sworn in. And now let's share with you what's coming up next.
Coming up next, NNPC set to implement new pricing regime for Dangote's fuel. And also the newspaper front pages, the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. We'll also be asking, as always, which way Nigeria? Welcome once again. Now let's take you through the newspapers and share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. We, of course, would have the papers on your screen, and you're invited to call and share your thoughts on these stories. Kicking off on the daily independent newspapers this morning, it says there, bring dead capital to life to tame appetite for borrowing. The federal government has been urged. We can also find there, Atiku lauds Rivers people for rejecting oppression and self-serving godfathers. Still on the Daily Independent, Fubara swears the new local government chairman in Rivers State. The conversations, of course, continue all about Rivers State. And I'm guessing, you know, it would make a majority of the conversations this week as things continue to unravel over there. We can also find on the Daily Independent this morning, Nigeria's low savings fueling interest rate hike, says Kalu Idika Kalu. How we lobbied lawmakers to pass Southwest Development Commission bill by Bamidele. I think more questions need to be asked about, you know, the Southwest Development Bill. We, of course, you know, have had the Northeast, I believe, development bill, and we've had, Southeast, I think, also. There's been more and more of them coming up, and, you know, the relevance of these commissions must be discussed, seeing how the NDDC, of course, has played out. Withholding allocations, or withhold rather, allocations of states that fail to conduct local government polls, Serap tells President Bola Tinubu. We did, share this earlier as well. Ondo gubernatorial 2,053,061 votes registered for INEC, for election rather, says INEC. These are the major stories that we can find on the Daily Independent newspapers this morning. Let's now move to the Punch newspapers.
Right on the front page of the Punch newspaper, the big story there says, Rivers crisis, Wike camp heads for court as Fubara swears in local government chairman. APC, PDP factions vow legal battle. We also see Asatiku, others counsel local government chiefs on residents' welfare. Tariff hike, Disco's revenue jumps to 887 billion naira. 2027, Labour Party welcomes Kwankwaso's officer to be Obi's running mate. Now, still looking at the front page of the Punch newspaper, Abba Moro tackles Alea as APC sweeps Benue local government seats. I trafficked drugs to pay my MSc fees, says Canadian suspect. 50 CNG stations servicing 200 million Nigerians, according to NMDPRA. At the top of the paper, Naira for crude. 3 refineries plan PMS production. Dangote awaits NNPC supply. And that's all that we have this morning on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Let's head to the final paper.
All right. This morning on the Daily Trust newspapers, it says there how multi-billion naira illicit arms entered Nigeria 23 times in 7 years. And I think we've repeatedly spoken about the need to curtail illegal arms smuggling in Nigeria, you know, as of course, if we are serious about fighting insecurity in the country, we cannot have the status quo remain, and of course, you know, expect that the insecurity will end. No matter how many bandits we, claim to kill every week, if we do not reduce the smuggling of arms, it almost never ends. Trend portends grave danger, say experts, and also investigation ongoing, the customs is saying. Higher interest rate painful for borrowers, but necessary to control inflation, says the CBN. Gunmen abduct school principal and 8 others in Kaduna. Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Highway. Federal government threatens to revoke Berger's contract over price dispute. And of course, war on Gaza, 1 year of killings, hunger, displacements. These are the major stories that we can find on the Daily Trust newspapers this morning. Let's quickly bring in our guests this morning to get the conversations going. Good morning to our analyst for today, Mr. Nelson Ekujumi. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Joining us. We probably would just start with the story, the controversies concerning River State, the elections over the weekend, 5th of October. 23 of them have been sworn in so far. There's expectations that concerned parties will go to court to challenge the legitimacy of the elections. But what are your thoughts on what has happened in the last few weeks?
Well, my thoughts are that, one, I'm aware that there was a court judgment stopping the conduct of the election. And if the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, at the behest of the governor, have decided to go ahead in disobedience to the court order, you and I know what follows, that whatever he must have done would amount to an exercise in futility, because we have precedents. You remember in 2015, when the APC had primaries for the gubernatorial elections for Akwa Ibom and Rivers State. And when the court nullified those primaries, the court told them that you don't have a candidate for the elections. And they couldn't present any candidate. There was even a case of Zamfara, where all their candidates won the election. And the court nullified the primaries that produced those candidates. And the party that came second, the court directed that that party should be declared the winner. And their candidates for the House of Assembly seats, the National Assembly, that's the Senate and the House of Representatives, the party even lost it even after they had won at the polls, because they didn't conduct it in line with the constitutional provisions, of which the court is there, to uphold the tenets of the Constitution. So if the governor of Rivers State has decided that, look, the way the court has given the judgment, I'm not satisfied with it, but I will take the laws into my hands. If that's his mindset, then I think he has another thing coming, because we're a country governed by laws and not by the whims and caprices of any individual, no matter how highly pleased.
His argument is that the courts didn't say the election should not hold. The court said that INEC should not release the voters register to RISEC.
Well, you and I know that under the Constitution of Nigeria, you cannot conduct an election without a voters register. And if INEC has not released the voters register to you, it means you manufactured yours.
No,
just a minute.
Yeah, okay.
And under the law, the only authority to collate voters register in Nigeria as we speak is the Independent National Electoral Commission.
Yeah.
No other body has that power. So if INEC did not give you the voters register, then it means you came up with your own register, and that is a flagrant violation of the Constitution.
The argument from RISEC is not that they came up with their own voters register. They had their voters register in 2023, given to them by INEC. What INEC was refusing to give them after the court order was an updated voters register.
Yes.
So it's not like they don't have a voters register. They have.
Okay.
And it's still legally, I believe, still legally binding for them.
It's not legally binding, because what it amounts to is that from 2023, those who have come of age, who are qualified to vote, you have disenfranchised them, and that the Constitution does not allow anybody except the courts that can disenfranchise a voter. So it means the electoral body, has disenfranchised who knows, thousands, if not millions of people of Rivers State from exercising their fundamental human rights to vote.
Okay, well, I'm sure that the litigations will start at some point. Maybe not. And we'll see how things would play out with regards to the elections. But of course, one of the stories on the Daily Independent, the top left corner says, Atiku lauds Rivers people for rejecting oppression and self-serving godfathers.
Well, I wouldn't know what Alhaji Atiku Abubakar meant by that. But one would expect that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, as an elder statesman, as somebody who was entrusted with the mandate of the Nigerian people for 8 years, should be civil, should be responsible, should encourage people to respect the laws of the land. Because if the courts have given a judgment, don't forget, even the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission is a creation of the law. The commission didn't exist out of itself. Even the office that Mr. Fubara is sitting is a creation of the law. He sits on that seat today because the law makes provision for it. So if Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is encouraging lawlessness, well, I'm sure you know, if you look at his antecedents since he lost the 2023 elections, you won't be surprised.
Yeah. What would you describe as more civil? Alhaji Atiku Abubakar's conduct? His conduct since 2023's elections and even prior, or the conduct of those who have continued to throw River State under continuous turmoil since 2023. Who would you say has acted more civil?
If you read through the media, you saw the statement of former President Goodluck Jonathan. That was more responsible. Former President Goodluck Jonathan even, advised the National Judicial Council, to step in because of the avalanche of court orders, so that they restore sanity. So for me, I don't know who has thrown River State into a chaos like you have assumed or you have stated, because I know for a fact that River State has a governor, they have a legislative chamber, and they have a judicial arm of government. So if the governor is not focusing on his mandate and is busy looking for enemies or engaged in war with whoever, I don't want to know.
You don't think the Minister of the FCT has been involved in River State politics?
The Minister of FCT does not have any constitutional powers in River State. The constitutional mandate of the people of River State is in the hands of Governor Fubara. So at the end of 4 years, we will not be saying, X did not allow him to rule. We gave you a mandate. You say some people have told, who conducted an election in defiance to a court judgment on Saturday? That tells you he knows he has the powers. So if he cannot use that powers within the ambit of the law, I'm sorry, I don't have any pity for him.
So you don't think the FCT minister has had any role to play?
I don't even believe that, because he's the governor.
But the thing is, the problem here is that he doesn't even deny it, and you saying you don't believe it, it's interesting, because the FCT minister doesn't even deny, his subtle direct or indirect involvement in the politics. He was even threatening. He was even threatening other state governors, other PDP governors, from getting involved in River State politics. Said that he will put fire in their state, if you remember.
Let me go back in history. There's a musician by name, I think Chief Ebenezer will be now an evangelist. Mm-hmm. He sang a song that Tomode ba dami luminu, utibere otanini. As small as your baby is, when it starts, the child or teenager's infantile, truancy, it starts attracting enemies. So if you assume or you think in your mind that because you have become a governor, that some people will not be after you to bring you down, and then I think you better think twice. So the fact that the FCT minister is engaged in whatever with the governor does not take away the powers of the governor. That's why can't the governor also go and intervene or interfere in the activities of the FCT minister in FCT?
I don't think that the argument is whether or not the governor has powers, but I think it's more of the FCT minister's role and his involvement, and whether we're denying the existence there. But we'll come back to that. We have Victor calling from Lagos. Good morning, Victor. Please go ahead with your comment. Victor, are you there? Please go ahead if you are.
Yes, hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning.
Please go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Mr. Francis. I'm calling from Lagos.
Go ahead.
Hello, are you hearing me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I want to ask your guest concerning the issue of the River State just concluded local government election. Please, I want you to find out from your guest, okay, if he is aware that there was a prior judgment from the River State High Court, okay, giving the go-ahead for the election to be conducted. Then the second question there, is he aware that shortly after the judgment from the Abuja High Court, now these are courts of coordinate jurisdiction. Do you understand me? Is he aware that shortly after that judgment, that the parties appealed the judgment for fear of execution, which gave the governor the right now to conduct that election. I think we should put the story straight as it were, rather than being one-sided, like he has chosen to be.
All right.
Well,
I need him to comment on this.
Thank you very much for calling.
well, I don't know about one-sided. He has, his views, and his
Well,
within his right to share
the
his
truth
views.
of the matter is that I just made reference to a former president alluding to the fact that the National Judicial Council has to step in because of the avalanche of court orders from courts of coordinate jurisdiction. So for me, I think if anybody is appealing a judgment from a high court, you and I know that the level to go is the court of appeal and not a high court again. So if there are judgments flying left and right, like we call, window shopping, the National Judicial Council will step in, and I'm sure those who are aggrieved from the conduct of what took place on Saturday have the courts to approach. I will not encourage anybody to take the laws into his or her hands. If you know you have gotten a judgment from the High Court, proceed further to the Court of Appeal, because that's what our Constitution says. And as people who want a better society, we must always encourage ourselves to toe the line of civility. What does the law say I should do?
Okay.
And not take the laws into our hands.
As we finalize the conversation about River State and Nyesom Wike, I think what I was saying before Victor called was that I think the argument is not about whether or not the Governor Siminalayi Fubara has powers in the state. I think we all can agree that as governor, there are statutory powers vested in his office as governor.
Yeah.
But I think the question is that are we also saying, or are you saying that Nyesom Wike has no involvement in the election, in the unsettling that's happening in River State? This is because, one, we've seen a number of people that have called themselves pro-Wike supporters doing protests and all sorts. He has never condemned them. Two, like my colleague mentioned earlier, we saw him on TV talking about people trying to disrupt the political structure of River State and saying that if they don't, if they're supporting those who are disrupting the political structure, he will set fire to their state. So I think all of this is just to say, are we now saying, or are you saying, that Nyesom Wike has no hand in what's going on in River State?
What I've just told you is that the executive powers in River State resides in the office of the governor within the ambit of the law. I've not said because he has executive powers, then he should resort to things outside of the law. What I'm saying is that the moment the Yoruba have this saying that I don't want to die, should not aspire to be the head of a family. So if you think because you have become governor, it will be roller coaster, that some people, even people within your party or outside your party, will not be looking for your pitfalls, then you must be a dreamer. So whether Wike is involved or not is the material to me. What I'm saying is that the governor has executive powers, to do that which is right in River State, and he should use his wisdom. Even people who belong to a camp yesterday, there's no harm, or it is not impossible for you to lure them to citizen and be with you. So the ball is in your court. How you decide to play it. If you decide that you want to continuously see some people as belonging to the other side, and you allow that to distract you from governance, that's your cup of tea. I'm not the one entrusted with that money, but if I were in his shoes, I would have done my own thing, my own way. That's his own style. Good luck to him.
All right, let's bring in Babarere calling from Ogun State. Good morning. Thank you very much for calling.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My brother, my sister, I'm not impressed by your guest in the studio. But my contribution is about this incident in Kaduna again, insecurity. That maybe bandits against truck, adopted, kidnapped some Nigerian Kaduna citizens. So I want to really ask, can the military alone really tackle the banditry and insurgency in this country? If they cannot do it, we can reach out to our friends in other climes to help us around. Because every day, Kaduna, every day you hear Zamfara. People are being kidnapped, people are being killed. So that is my take this morning. let the military, if they cannot do it alone, well, let Mr. President, stretch the olive hand to either UK, America, for them to come and assist us. And so from some French African countries did it sometimes ago by requesting for French assistance, military. Only something went awry, they drove out the French. Right now, I think some of the Russians are assisting them. So Nigeria should do the same thing instead of innocent citizens being killed every time, being abducted. That is my take this morning. But finally, I beg your guest ask what is happening in Rivers. He's not saying the truth. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much for calling. Okay, let's move on to another conversation. He's just reacted to the story on the Daily Trust that says gunmen abduct school principal and 8 others in Kano. But there's a bigger story, or not a bigger, there's a big story, which in a way, is related to this story. How multi-billion naira illicit arms entered Nigeria 23 times in 7 years. Trend portends grave danger, says experts. Investigation ongoing, says customs. And NSA's office takes custody of seized ammunition. It is these multi-billion naira arms that terrorists and gunmen are using to carry out dastardly acts like kidnapping. If you then move on to, there's another paper that still talks about this. Yeah, customs, no, on the Daily Independent, bottom story says, customs acquires aircraft to combat smuggling. So let's talk about, your reaction to the big story, the porosity of our borders, and how we're seeing that you can smuggle multi-billion naira arms into the country. There was something the last caller said, that we probably may not be able to win the war against terrorism if so far we find that we're not able to win the war, we should get external help.
Well, the truth of the matter is that as we sit down here, over the years, for close to a decade or two now, we have set the record as the country with the highest number of proliferation of small arms. And that assertion has been given credence by this publication. The fact that our borders are porous, it's a big, negative, and that has fueled the insecurity that we are battling with. We must not forget, the insecurity that we are battling with is, generated by human beings. And those who combat this insecurity are also human beings. You can imagine if you look at all parts of the country, is it Southwest here, Lagos and Ogun, there are some places within the territory of Nigeria that if you are standing, one part of your body is in Nigeria, the other part of your body will be in Benin Republic. So we also have it in other parts of the country, that our borders are too lax. You talk about the Chad River Basin areas, So we need to look critically, what can we do to secure the borders? Is it for us to put in technology? Is it for us to build fences? I don't know if it's possible.
And does it make sense here that, the customs are saying that they've acquired aircraft to combat smuggling? Will that make any difference?
No, it will go a long way to assist the custom in its functions. But don't forget that the responsibility to secure the borders is not that of the customs alone. There are several other agencies involved. But most importantly, we need to take into confidence the border communities. They are very, very critical to this insecurity.
Right. Hold on. Let's speak to Uche, who's joining us. Good morning, Uche.
Everybody.
Morning. Go ahead.
Yeah, when we talk about this insecurity, I want to ask, any election, you will hear that police deploy 35,000. Military will deploy. Air Force will deploy. Navy will deploy. In election of one state, why can't they deploy all those numbers to where the insecurity is happening? That is the question I'm asking this morning. We have helicopters hovering around. Why can't the Nigerian police use their helicopter, military use their helicopter, and go against these bandits? On issue of Rivers State, they brought the problem on themselves. When one person, Milke, was saying that he will direct them where they will vote, the institutions did not go against Milke. After stepping from office, you have not heard or hear that the institution have invited him. What a mess! And the man is supporting. The man have not even said anything regarding to what Milke said. Remember, Milke said PDP is a malaria, APC is a cancer. If you mix malaria and cancer, what will you get? I'm happy the governor has built a psychiatric hospital. in his local government. Because if you mix these two, it will be madness. What we are practicing is madness. Our institutions are not doing anything in regards to that because of politics. God bless you people.
Thank you very much for calling.
All right.
Okay. Enough has been talked about. Do you want to take another story?
I mean, pretty much, on the same security story. We've spoken multiple times here about how important it is that we fix our border issues, fix the proliferation of arms, both, of course, light and major arms into Nigeria. But I don't know that we've seen actual steps being taken by successive governments to actually fix that. Customs can seize as much as it can, but do we see anything different with the current administration?
And just to add, even the same said customs, when there were allegations that were leveled, we remember there was an investigative journalism piece that was done by Fisayo Shoyon, but there were strong allegations about the customs, and almost every day he was coming out to call them out. Did they carry out an investigation? Would you say that they're serious in this fight against insecurity?
Well, I believe strongly that they are serious because they have a mandate to do that. But that is not to take away that in any organization, not only in customs, that will definitely have bad eggs. Those bad eggs could be the ones, the journalist Fisayo Shoyombo you mentioned, his investigation revealed. But be that as it may, even if he has done that, one expects the customs hierarchy to have taken that report and do an investigation in order to, address those shortcomings he identified. Yes, you talked about is the present administration. I think one of the high points that you have just mentioned is the latest move to acquire helicopters by the Nigerian Customs Service. You and I know that the Nigerian Customs Service is on the waters, is on land, and even the Marine Police is also on water. And like you have rightly said, it is what the customs are able to apprehend that they will apprehend because they are human beings. So maybe we need to deploy more technology. We need to borrow technology from other countries to see how they have been able to secure their borders.
All right.
If they have a similar terrain like ours, because that is very, very important.
All right. Good morning, Amodu. All right. I hope that he I don't know if he's still there. Good morning, Amodu. Can you hear us? All right. I think we just quickly wrap up with the story on Serap. It's probably one of the other major ones that we saw this morning, saying here, withhold allocations of states that fail to conduct local government polls. Serap tells President Tinubu. That's on the Daily Independent.
Well, you and I are aware that the federal government set up a committee comprising stakeholders, including governors, to look at the implementation of the Supreme Court judgments. And I'm sure it is not in the interest of anybody to put any state, into jeopardy, the interest of the people. So whatever we are doing, we will have to look at the human elements. How feasible is it for them to conduct local government elections within XY period, so that we give ourselves, days of grace or months of grace to be able to do that. Because if the government withholds the allocation of these local governments, it is the people that will suffer. And it is not in the interest of any responsible government to allow its citizens suffer because of, a policy. Because, like we say, the man was not made for law, but law was made for man. And that is why, at every point in time as we evolve, we amend our laws, we rejig it to suit present socioeconomic realities. So we won't say because a court has given a judgment yesterday, then we should start implementing. We are talking about human beings and not goats and donkeys. So I expect that committee that was set up, that had representatives of the governors, would have sat down and determine the way to go to ensure that every arm of government is in compliance with the provisions of the Constitution.
Oh, well, we'll see how things turn out. Thank you very much, Nelson Ekujimi, for joining us and for sharing your thoughts with us this morning on these very important issues. Look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Stay with us this morning. Let's take a very short break. When we come back, we will continue with our top stories this morning on...
The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, is set to introduce a new pricing regime for petrol following the increased supply from Dangote refinery. Between September 15th and 30th, NNPC lifted 103 million litres of petrol from the refinery. According to NNPC insiders, the company will adjust the pump price upward to reflect the reality of relying on Dangote refinery cargoes, exhausting imported stock. The new price regime is expected to consider foreign exchange fluctuations, crude price increases due to Middle East tensions and regional distribution challenges. This is as reported by the Premium Times.
Now, previous estimates suggest prices ranging from 950 naira to 1,019 naira per litre across different regions. However, the crude price is exceeding $78 per barrel, and the naira's depreciation. An NNPC official told Premium Times that prices may exceed 1,350 naira per litre. This development follows the September 3rd price increase from 617 to 855 to 897 naira per litre. The NNPC has not officially announced the new price regime, but adjustments are expected soon. And of course, as we expect in Nigeria, once there is these rumors, you would expect that petrol stations would immediately start making these adjustments across the country. In different parts of Nigeria, people have already been reporting that they've been buying petrol for more than 1,000 naira in Benin, in Enugu State, and many other places. But joining us is financial analyst Kalu Aja. Good morning, and thanks for your time as always. Thanks for joining us.
How are you doing? Good morning.
Very well. It's a little confusing, mostly because of the reasons that the NNPC is stating. They're talking about the Middle East crisis, talking about the fluctuating price of the exchange rate, and of course, with the dollar and naira exchange rather, and also fluctuating price of crude oil. These are some of the things that they've mentioned. But is there any truth to their claims from what you think? Also, keep in mind that the NNPC's sale of Dangote, sale of crude to Dangote in naira is meant to start in October.
Well, sadly, NNPC seems to be correct in this case because the local price of PMS that you pay is going to be dependent on the exchange rate of the naira to the dollar and the international price of crude oil. These two are going to be the main drivers of the PMS price you pay locally. The payment to pay for crude oil in naira only has an effect if you are paying at below the NAFEX or the official rate. If you are paying at the same 1,600, 1,650 and all that, there's no subsidy. So there's no pass-through or there's no savings. Doesn't matter if you're paying naira or dollars, you're still paying at the exchange rate that the market is exchanging. So you're not going to see any price, release or any price subsidy unless there's a subsidy either on the exchange rate or on the, should we say, the price of crude oil. That's when you see the local price come down at the pumps in Nigeria.
All right. So what we're saying in essence is, or does this automatically mean that we should also expect an increase across board?
Yes, unless there's a subsidy, because if the oil price goes up as it's going up because of the tensions in the Middle East, then the drive-through in prices should then show up. So the exchange rate and the international price of crude oil would now be under pressure, and that will show up on your local PMS price, unless the NNPC subsidizes. And the subsidy is simple. They can tell Dangote to pay at maybe 1,000 naira and not 1,600 naira. So that way there's a subsidy. But if he pays as full market price and oil price goes up and naira weakens, then of course the local PMS price is going to go up. It's just going to happen.
Does it matter that crude is now being sold in naira to the Dangote refinery?
And it has no effect because, again, he's buying at the market rate. So that market rate is $1 is nearly 1,700, 1,700. So there's no difference there. You only have a subsidy if Dangote is paying less or he's paying in a time delay. So maybe he gets crude oil in January and is going to pay in March. That's a subsidy as well. But if he's paying at full market price, taking the product, paying almost immediately or 30 days to sell at the same exchange rate, There's no subsidy there. He also runs the business. So he's got to take that crude oil, refine it, and then sell to the local NNPC, who then distributes to you at the local pumps. The savings will come if Dangote gets the crude oil and is able to refine the crude oil. He's able to sell the byproduct and then get that excess savings to the byproduct. But the crude is owned by NNPC. He's just a refiner. So what NNPC does with the byproduct is now going to determine how they will fund that subsidy. Will they, for instance, give Dangote crude, get the byproducts, export and sell that, and use that as a fund to pay the subsidy? We don't know yet. But the Naira dollar thing doesn't make any difference, per se.
So, I mean, for what you're saying, Nigerians will not be catching a breather anytime soon, and what Nigerians should expect, is that as these details that you've mentioned continue to maybe increase, the price of petrol will continue to increase. So it might be hitting 1,500, maybe 2,000 naira per liter.
Unless there's a subsidy, as long as the international price goes up and the exchange rate weakens, then your local PMX price will go up. It's already going up. That's why you see the 6 billion unpaid subsidy checks that NNPC has not paid. That's what's going on. That's why the NNPC wrote that letter to the federal government, because your PMS price can stay stable, then the NNPC bears that liability of the excess subsidy. But they're saying now they cannot bear it. That's why the oil price or the PMS price had to go up to cover a bit of that subsidy. So it's just pure economics. The crude oil itself in Nigeria is priced in dollars, not Naira.
Yeah.
So to get that subsidy, you've got to give, something has to give. Either Dangote does not pays in dollars, but at a lower exchange rate. So he's able to get the crude and do business with that crude and supply more PMS at a lower price to the NNPC. Something has got to give there. We can't afford anything dollar in Nigeria. We just can't afford, because we earn Naira. So dollar is a bit too expensive for us.
Yeah. Will the possibility of, the whole independent marketers talk, the whole, maybe other refineries coming up, will any of that change anything? What I'm asking here is, for Nigerians watching, I understand how much of a strain it must have been for everyone having to buy petrol, above 800 naira to 1,000 naira, per liter. And so just hearing that there's a possibility that it will get worse, is there anything that Nigerians can hold on to and say, okay, maybe there's a glimmer of hope here that doesn't sound like, subsidy?
Yes, there's nothing, because the cost is fixed, right? If it's in Naira or dollars, it's fixed. The only way you get a subsidy is if the federal government says, Dangote, take the crude oil at below market, right? Or the CBN says, Dangote, take these dollars at below NAFEX. Then it's a subsidy. Then it's a bit of a release at the local pump, the PMS price at local pumps. Apart from that, if you simply buy at market rate, then it's going to pass through. The exchange rate to pass through, the dollar rate the crude oil price will also pass through to local pumps. Even if 10 refineries in Nigeria are working, the refining is not a key cost factor of the final PMS price that you pay in Nigeria. The refining at continent is about 20 to 30 naira. It's not a major factor. It's large, but it's not major. The real drivers are the crude oil price in dollars and the exchange rate from Naira to dollars. These two things that's what the subsidy is going to be. Like I said earlier, you can have a subsidy where Dangote gets crude oil, is able to refine that crude oil, export the byproduct, and then pays NNPC. NNPC can take those byproducts that he didn't get when he simply did the swap and create a fund for those byproducts to then pay the subsidy. So there's a long-term savings there, but it has to be the federation to say, yes, that revenue that's going to come to NNPC should go towards the subsidy and not go towards maybe NNPC's operations. That's how I see it happen. Apart from that, economics will play out.
All right. Just to quickly mention, or to quickly ask, I know you've said that the refineries don't have a major role to play in all of this. Port Harcourt Refinery has missed its 7th deadline for rollout. What is the fate of the refinery in Port Harcourt? Are we ever going to see it actually roll out?
Yeah, the mistake was trying to make it work. A long time ago, that thing should have been sold and scrapped and maybe done a new refinery in this place. It's too old. Even if it works, it's going to produce crude oil at a higher price than Dangote. And Dangote can produce all the PMS Nigeria needs. So why is the NNPC getting its own refinery today? It doesn't make any sense economically. So it should be scrapped or reconditioned for something else. But you can't run to refineries. NNPC doesn't even have the crude oil for Dangote. Where would they get the crude oil for its own refineries? Remember, we've given away lots of products for loans. And I read a report, NNPC owned about 8 billion.
Yeah.
They paid about 2 billion. So where is the product going to be to service Port Harcourt, service Dangote, then the other Port Harcourt, then the Kaduna? Where are they going to get the products from? So we wasted a lot of money trying to do it around maintenance or to repair the Port Harcourt refinery. Sell it, move on. Dangote is here. It's a newer plant. So the cost is going to be lower than whatever NNPC has. It's a brand new plant, can service Nigeria, West Africa, even Europe. Let's focus on that.
All right, let's quickly bring in Lai Omotola, who's CEO, Integrated Revenue Services. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Robert.
All right. Also, we're almost out of time, but let's quickly also get your thoughts, on the whole conversation concerning the possible increment in the price of petrol. Is this, what it has to be, seeing the realities, in the industry?
Yes, I think we're presently having energy crisis, and the area we begin to look at alternative means of fueling the economy, the better for us. Our total reliance on fossil fuel is no longer sustainable, and it's time for us to begin to look at alternative means like CNG and also electric vehicles, because we need to have hybrid of sources of energy for this economy as it is in other developed nations. For us to be reliant on petrol and diesel 100% when the forces of the market forces is not in our control, we will continue to have this price variation from time to time because we are working on parts. And as long as the prices of crude oil increases, our fuel pump will also increase. So we need to diversify. And how do we diversify? It is by rushing up our CNG adaptability and also including our electric vehicle, getting Innocent and some other automobile company to produce these vehicles for us to have this hybrid. And if we do not do it in the fastest possible time, this crisis will continue to jack up our inflation, will continue to jack up our foreign exchange, and the economy would look very, very long.
All right. It doesn't look like it's a very clear picture. It just looks like predictions of doom and gloom. But unfortunately, we might have to wrap up the conversation here as a result of time, which we're running out of. But thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us to discuss this rather gloomy topic this morning.
Thank you, Roger.
Economics.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right, now we'll bring you what Nigerians or which way Nigeria up next after this break.
Ladies and gentlemen, what does it say when the #1 citizen of a country chooses to vacation abroad? The Buhari administration between 2015 and 2023, if you remember, was one that left many Nigerians completely stunned as to how much lower our nation could sink. Not just with the general state of the nation, but also with the very shocking reduction in our standards as a people and as an electorate. The things Nigerians were forced to accept as the new normal, moving from past presidents who had regular media chats, for example, to one who couldn't care less about speaking with journalists or Nigerians in general on topical issues. And that suddenly became the standard if you've seen how the current administration, of course, has carried on. I've always argued that one of the deepest cuts the Buhari administration gave to Nigeria was the seeming destruction of our standards. And since then, Nigerians have not been able to demand and ensure a much better standard for leadership. It has become so terrible that we now have people like columnist Sam Omashe tweeting this on the 2nd of October, saying that the president stood up throughout his October 1 broadcast. Few are willing to observe this. His predecessors sat. If he faltered, it would have made headlines. An upstanding delivery. With all due respect to Sam Omashe, that tweet is unbelievable. And honestly, we can only pray that he was being sarcastic. If he saw the reactions to that tweet, I'm sure he must have also seen that many Nigerians found it completely shocking. But it really just tells you how badly beating that we've become as Nigerians, where people see standing up to read from a teleprompter as an achievement for the president of the giant of Africa. Again, we can only just pray that Sam Omashe was only joking. He was being sarcastic. Now, this is a good time to tell Nigerians that as we try to pick up the pieces of our standards in leadership, that even though it's not illegal, there's still nothing normal about a president, while his country is in its worst economic crisis, choosing to travel abroad to be on a 2-week vacation. In fact, it doesn't even matter if the country is in its best shape. It's still very abnormal for a president to simply just travel abroad for 2 weeks holiday. There's no part of such a decision that is normal. If you remember, former President Buhari spent numerous weeks abroad on medical tourism, and of course, after 8 years as president, still didn't fix Nigeria's healthcare system enough to assure the average Nigerian of good healthcare. This is after 8 years of traveling here and there. And so, as President Tinubu holidays in the UK for the next 2 weeks, as stated, let it be clear that even though it is not illegal, it is completely abnormal. And I don't think Nigerians should see it as normal, and we should just move on from it. Mr. President's attempts to fix our country should not just be from the words that he speaks, but also from his body language and what his actions tell us as a people, and also what his actions and body language tell the outside world. It's not illegal to be on leave. Every worker goes on leave. It's also not illegal to even spend your 2-week leave outside Nigeria. There's nothing illegal about it, but it's very abnormal. And it doesn't tell well for Nigeria or for her president when the chief marketer of the country, the president, chooses to go abroad on vacation in a different country entirely. Good morning, Nigerians.
Thank you very much for joining us to begin this week's broadcast of Breakfast Central. We'll be back again tomorrow. Remember that the conversations continue on the station, so please do not tune off. We have more packages and more bulletins. News comes up right after we exit the studio. But we'll be back same time tomorrow. I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogi Ogbawa. See you tomorrow.